So welcome to Spiritual Formation. I've said that already. I'm Patty Kappa, the instructor of the course, and I'm delighted to be doing this again. This is my actual third time to teach this course, and every time I learn something new about myself and about God and how that interacts with my counseling practice. And I have a private practice where I see mostly couples, and I see a few clergy folks. That used to be my specialty. You probably know that about Steve and I. We worked with clergy for 10 years. So spiritual formation was a part of our everyday counseling world for all those years. And now today I still work with some clergy and all kinds of populations in Grand Junction, and not just Christians, but also non-Christians, and occasionally different faiths as well. So we'll be talking about all that these 7 weeks. You all know that, these are the books, Sacred Pathways. I really love Sacred Pathways because I find Gary Thomas to be a very humble man in his writings. And I know you're not required to read the whole thing, although tonight this week was reading about the Garden of Gethsemane. And really what he means by that is a place where you can go to meet God. And these pathways he's presenting different ways for you to do that. And at the end of every chapter for these different paths, you get to take a little tiny exam, and it tells you if you're high on that pathway or low on that pathway. And I encourage you all to give it a try for all the different pathways. I think the course says read 3 chapters, and I'd like you, if you have the opportunity and the time, to read all of them. And if there are ones that appeal to you more, then read those first. And I think you may be surprised by some of the pathways that you use or didn't know you were using, and you'll read some of the chapters and discover, oh my goodness, I've been waiting for God in those different ways for a long time. I just hadn't thought about it as being a worshipful or prayerful time to connect to God. So I hope you make a lot of great discoveries with that. In my life, I've worshiped God in many different denominations. I can't overemphasize that enough. Many different denominations in the Christian world. So I'm familiar with a lot of the different pathways, and sometimes for me they're seasonal. I'll visit some ways sometimes, and some way others. I think our Creator is very gracious with us and wants us to find the ways that we connect best. And this class is going to give you assignments to help you do that. So I have a confession. I don't multitask well, so let me just answer Karen here. And since you can't hear it, I'll just tell
her. I got it. I finally got it.
Karen, yes. Are you okay with us recording?
Yes. I'm so sorry. It wasn't on mute. I just had picked the phone option instead of the internet option. Sorry.
Welcome. That's fabulous.
Thank you.
Yeah. The other book is the face-to-face book, and this is really a devotional to help you through the 7 weeks. When you're discovering times, we're going to be really looking at solitude, silence, and prayer, and this is a book to help guide you through that if you need that. And it's also a book for you to keep on your shelf for when you need it, ever. So it's a very good devotion. It's a devotional. So the third book is Henry Nouwen, The Way of the Heart. One of the reasons I enjoy him so much is because, well, let's show you. It's a really thin book, and that means he writes very concisely, and it's also very poignant. And so I really, when you're reading these, I hope you enjoy Henry. And he's in heaven now, but he was in his lifetime an amazing writer about the Christian walk and a Catholic priest. So I've read quite a few of his books and have enjoyed them all. And they're all real thin like that. Isn't that interesting? So he has a lot to say about the Christian life. In the class, it's really, really important that when you're looking at this session 1 in the course, that you begin to sign up for those triads. You're going to be meeting in groups of 3 to do your discussions. And I need you to do that this week because I have to then create dyads of different groups. So you're going to have triads that you're doing discussions, and you're going to have a dyad, you and another student, and do the assignments in session 2 and 3. And you're actually going to have a counseling session, and it's very scripted. It's going to be all there in the session. And so please get those triads written in. It's called WikiLinks. I'm probably not saying that well. And there's a link for you to press on that, and it'll bring up a grid for you to put your names in. So please do that by the end of the week. And then over the weekend, I'll get started on putting you into dyads. What else? So throughout this course, you're going to be doing a variety of activities. There's more activities in this class than there is reading, which might be a little different. This is very experiential. So like I said, you're going to be meeting in triads. And my hope is that you meet in a like this in a live stream session, maybe using Zoom, maybe using Collaborate, talking on the phone, a way that 3 of you can have a conversation. And then if you do that, then you write a 1-page summary. One of you in the group, you'll take turns writing a 1-page summary. And please put your names at the top of that summary so I know what group did that. It cuts down, it just changes the way you're doing the discussion and exchanging ideas. I think when you use the live stream way that it builds community for you. That's what I've heard from my students, that those 1-hour discussions they do with their in the triads have been very helpful and meaningful for them. And then you get to meet them in residentials and maybe see them in other classes. And now, if that's impossible, and sometimes it is, you can do a traditional live threaded discussion in the on the discussion board, and then you just do that discussion with your triad partners. And when you post, you go into discussions, and they'll have the different numbers of the triads, and you post in your triad number, and you have a discussion with each other. Does that make sense to all of you?
So does each person individually submit the 1-page paper, or is it for the 3 of us, one person just writes the paper, just to confirm?
Here's the way I like to see it, is that one person writes the summary, and it's good if you review, the rest of the triad at least reviews that summary, so you email it to each other, and then you all submit that same summary in your discussion post. Don't rewrite it, use the same one. And then as you take turns, if there's 4 triad discussions, so one of you will write the summary twice, but I think you just get a lot out of it if you do it that way. And I really love short and concise, so please only 1 page. And it's not going to have a title page or references or anything like that. It's just going to be a summary of your discussion. Okay, so you don't need a title page. And those are going to be in different sessions, in 4 sessions throughout the 7 weeks. So it's a little different course. It's not a discussion every single week. All right. However, I do have a discussion every week, and it's simply to support your learning, give you a place to discuss with my presence, what's going on, and questions that may come up, and I'd love to answer those for you. And also that we just have an exchange of thoughts and ideas in this live format. And the reason I do it is simply because I really enjoy it. I enjoy seeing all your faces. I really like hearing your thoughts, not just reading them. And but it's optional, no pressure. All right, it's really a choice that you have. In this course, another experiential piece is you're going to visit a church service that is different than what you're used to. So I want you to go to some denomination that you've never been to before. You can go with friends and family. You don't have to go by yourself. Whatever you decide, however you want to do it. And so that comes up, I think, in week 4. So be thinking about that, because you know how fast these courses go. And I want you to be thinking, what kind of church service would you like to explore? It could be different by a cross-cultural experience. It could be different by denomination, just something different than you've ever done before. And then you'll be writing a reflection on that experience. Okay. And then another experience you're going to have towards the end of the course is, I like to give you a heads up on this, because for grad students with all your busy lives, and I've been reading about you and you're getting to know you, it's a very busy time of life, isn't it? You're being pushed and pulled in all different directions. And it is a 3-hour retreat. So you have to go somewhere and do 3 hours of silence and solitude with your books, with your Bible. And so be planning for that. So it needs to be 3 hours long, silence and solitude. Do you have any questions about that?
I do.
Yes, Isaiah.
So I can like go to since I'm here in Colorado, I can go to the mountains for 3 hours with my books.
Yes, sir.
Perfect.
Yes. Yes, you'll
Does
see.
it have to be at the end of the class?
Yes, I can't remember exactly which session. It's either session, I think it's session 5.
Okay.
And here's another big maybe is something a little different, is when you do that retreat, you're going to produce a 10-minute video of yourself, and that's what you're going to upload. So smile. I know you're all looking forward to that.
No.
And what will we be doing on this video?
Yeah, that's a good question.
What's that?
What will we be doing on this video?
You will be reflecting on the experience you had on that 3-hour retreat.
Okay.
Isaiah will be talking about the mountains.
Well, can I do it from the mountains? Can I do it in the mountains?
Yes.
If your cell phone reception works.
So here's, you do the 3 hours, reflect upon it, and then then you'll be doing the video later. I mean, sometime after the retreat.
So we don't have to be in the place of the retreat doing the video then?
No. I want you to be relaxed and quiet, experiencing the solace of God, and then later do your video.
Okay.
Okay. And it's a 10-minute video. I think that's the longest. That's the longest that it says in the assignment. And what else is about that? The only person who's going to see that video is me, unless you want someone else, unless you want to share it with someone else. But I'll be watching all of your videos. And so those are really the big, one other really important piece is every week you'll be turning in the daily experience scale. It's in today's session, and you download that and you use it you fill out a different one at the end of every week. And it is one of your assignments to turn in by Sunday night. You get 5 points for that.
I don't really get how we turn that in. Like, do we like scan it in and upload a picture, or like how? I'm so super confused about that.
Jasmine, it's fine if you do it that way. Some people are able to download it and fill it out digitally on your computer screen and put the X's in and save it, and then submit it as an attachment in your assignment. So,
Oh,
you know, in your assignment box, there's a little paper clip at the bottom, and that's your attachment. And you can do it that way. I've had people fill them out, you know, print them, fill them out, and then scan them. The easier way is just to do it on your computer digitally.
Does it have to be on a Friday? Can we do it like on a Wednesday as long as we're consistent, or does it have to be on the Friday of each week?
You can do it as long as it's consistent. You can do it any way you want.
Okay.
just submit it once a week, no matter what you said.
Can't be later than Sunday though, or you get points
Okay.
off.
Okay.
But
That's reasonable.
yeah, okay. So if you do it every Wednesday, make it work into your life. That makes sense to you. This class is really for you, first and foremost, and in my opinion. And then it's going to benefit your clients as well. And if you're in practicum and internship now, hopefully it will now. All right. So make it work for your life that way, but you have to have it in by Sunday. And then at the end of the block, at the end of the course, you'll be using those to write your last reflection paper about how the course went for you. You'll talk about that scale. You can talk about all the experiences you've had and how it all comes together at the end of the course. You'll have that final paper. Okay. Any questions about that?
I don't think so.
All right. All right. So first thing to do this week is to get your sign in the wiki link with your triads. All right. That's really, really important so we can move on till next week when you meet up with you guys.
If we already have a triad, how do I get their contact information? So like coordinate a meeting.
You can do that on the student lounge.
Okay.
So that's a really good place. Go on the student lounge and ask for emails and addresses right there. And you can converse on there.
Okay.
And then you can decide how, and then once you have that information, you can have a discussion about how you're going to discuss. What works for the three of you to make that happen once during those weeks that the discussions are assigned. And they're 4 out of the 7 weeks you'll have those. And again, everyone in the last few courses I've taught, when they meet in a live stream meeting, it seems to be, they just all say it works very well. And especially when you've had different backgrounds and histories of worshiping God in a certain way, and you come together and you have all different ways, it's been very eye-opening to hear about other ways of doing it, and as they're building that relationship and getting to know each other as grad students here. So, of course, that can happen in the live stream. I mean, in the threaded discussion as well. It's just a little different. Okay. Any questions about all this big class? Okay. So it's Wednesday, and you may not have reviewed the acervic information. It's the guidelines in the American Counseling Association's ethics portion of ACA that talks about working with religion and spirituality in the counseling room. And the way I see it, and would appreciate your input here right now as well, is that first and foremost, we must be very respectful and accepting of whatever and whoever walks into our office, into the counseling office. And with that, you know, if we do, a lot of times in my office, I will ask them if they have a religion or a spirituality when we're talking about resources and support in their lives. And sometimes they'll just say, no, you know, so, and then we move on to other things. Do you have community? Do you have people who support you, you know, and on and on. But sometimes they say yes, and it may not be a religion that I know about or a spirituality I know about, and then I just tell them I don't know about it. will you tell me how that's helpful to you? So that's the way that we learn. And we get, with every client that comes into our office, our view gets broader and broader and wider and wider. And that's good for us, right? And from my point of view, that there's as many connections with God as there are people, because we all have our own connection and our own way of having a relationship with God. So it's very exciting to explore that with people. And also, there are times when it's not appropriate to have those conversations. And part of my history is working in community health with the chronically mentally ill. And if they're having severe symptoms, that's not a time to ever bring that up, because it can be cause greater confusion. You know, we have to be very, very careful when we present it or when we ask. And I have had clients with delusions about religion and God, and you know, you don't want to engage that. You're trying to bring the anxiety and the confusion down. So there are times when it's totally not appropriate. And also, it's not appropriate if they say, no, I don't have one. It's not appropriate to be respectful and accepting. Then we say, okay, let's look at other ways, as I've already said. The other thing is that I was reviewing those guidelines today, is that if we are working with a certain population and part of the treatment goals have to do with spirituality, some of my clients are seeing me simply for spiritual formation. If that's the case, then, you know, let's explore, and I use my history of working with clergy and of all denominations, and you know, it's a really fun path. And that's really the treatment goal, is maybe to become more comfortable in church when they've had a traumatic experience there. Maybe it's their faith has taken a hit because things have gone wrong, or they've been injured in their faith. And you know, those are very reasonable treatment goals when they're asking to get some help. They want to find their love again, if you will. Because things don't always go well in the community of believers, do they?
No.
No. And we have to be able to, that might be a treatment goal that they want to try to find some resolution in that part of their life. And then of course, it's absolutely our job to explore their spirituality with them. And what does this mean? And what does God mean? And what does the community mean? And how this all has affected you. And so those are times it's appropriate. You know, when I do ask about that circle of support, and if faith is part of it, I have to be willing to hear whatever it is. It might be something I have absolutely no idea about, or even bigger, something I don't agree with. So, you know, part of our job as counselors in this is to be open and accepting and willing to explore that with them. And we all have biases, and we have to check our biases at the door when that happens. And be professional and respectful and learn from them. You know, we don't know everything at all. So always being curious about the client, knowing your limitations. So if I'm thinking that, wow, they really need to go talk with their church leadership, whatever that might be, then I need to be able to make those referrals and help them support their seeking that out from a clergy or church leader, a group leader, if you will. Any thoughts about all that I just said? I'd like to hear from you.
In my experience, this whole past year, I'm nearly done. I'll finish up in December. So I've been in my internship and practice at the Denver Rescue Mission. So I've been able to counsel every single day with my Christian faith, because the theme is changing lives in Christ's name. They have you know, just, it's an immediacy need. So I'm comfortable because I'm someone that was called to this through my faith, through everything that I've experienced myself. So in light of hearing you, I've already been prepared that I've heard you're not going to be able to talk to everybody about your faith like the way that you do now. So, you got to learn different. So I'm happy that this course, is going to allow me to have to learn something else, going to have to adapt to something different, because I've gotten so comfortable in the last year, every single session praying with my clients, every single session having God move, every single session like feeling like the need to be able to just be used by God.
Yes. And because it's the Denver Rescue Mission, all of your clients know when they come, they expect that, because that's the mission of the rescue mission of the mission. So other kinds of programs, if you will, counseling programs, agencies, that's not their mission, right? So you have to align with your mission, and I'm glad that Isaiah, that you're doing that. I hope you can hear me. It looks like you got frozen there, but yeah, there's all different ways to do it. Even even if I'm not going to talk about faith in the church or in the counseling session, I can still pray. I can pray before the session, and I can pray after, me asking for God's enlightenment, and, for the Holy Spirit to give me greater clarity. And I do that all the time. I'm in my own business now, so I get to schedule my clients, and I get to schedule with time in between, which that hasn't ever been the case before, where you're getting one right after another and after another. And so now at this season, I get to slow down, get a half hour between folks, take time to pray, and Isaiah, I think your audio's not working. But thank you for all you did contribute in those words with your internship. What an exciting place to do your internship.
I have a question.
Yeah, Karen.
The reason I chose this program is, because it's faith-based, and I work in the community now, and we actually state, and we cannot share anything, with any client. So I'm totally accepting of all people, but I was wondering how you start to ask them about their faith. Like if they say they have a faith, and you don't know about it, do you just start asking questions and have them teach you about it so you can know more on what's important to them and how to expand from that?
Well, I always try to ask them questions that are really not for me, but for them. So tell me, how does this help you? What are the aspects of your community that help? What don't? Tell me about that. Tell me, so for instance, I work with a lot of people who have life challenging diagnosis, physical diagnosis, and I'll say, tell me about your hope for tomorrow, and if you have a faith, how does that work together for you to get you through to the next day? So it's always about them.
Okay.
And then I just learn by listening as we're exploring how it's helpful to them. Because, and then I have a couple and I work a lot with couples. They're my faves. And so, you have a couple come in with a big trauma, betrayal. No one comes to see me because they just got a promotion at work or they're excited about,
That's true.
they come when things have gotten so desperate that they don't know what to do usually, especially with couples. And I'll say, well, and they're weeping. It's just a very tragic time, and we're learning all about that. And then before they leave, I want to know, so what's helping you cope? And these days I'm calling them props. What are your props? What props you up to get you going each day and keeps you moving through when you're going through such a difficult time? And they'll tell me a few things, and I'll say, do you have a community of faith or religion that's helpful during this very tragic time? And they, like I say, that's how I usually do it, because I want to bring in all the props, all the things to help them stand up tall that are going to get them through this difficult time. And faith is one of those things. And then there's the other piece of it. Yeah, they believe in God, but they're really angry at him. and that's that's a really important thing to explore. That's really personal to them. Our relationship with God is very personal, and we want to be able to explore those things with them, with their permission, not without it. And then the other thing, I can't tell them to connect and worship to God the way I do it. We have to find out how they do it.
Mm-hmm.
And the pathway book is a real good one, because that gives us, I know there's more than those paths because we're so diverse. God made us so uniquely. There's more than that, but that gives you a really great outline of ways to do it. And it really takes the judgment off. You'll discover that as you're reading it. There's no holier way. Did you all hear that? There's no holier way to connect to God, like someone else's way is better than your way. No, it's just your way. So I was a few weeks ago in one of these discussions, I was thinking about all my children are grown up now, adults, and I just like them to come and say hello to me. I really don't really care how they do it. Call me, text me, email me, send me a letter, come visit at my front door. Those are all different ways to connect. And I think God the Father is the same way. There's all different ways to connect. Move towards. This is a course that gives you an opportunity to move towards God in your own unique way, with no judgment, with acceptance, and figuring out how that looks for you.
Thank you.
Welcome. Any more thoughts?
I think I've been able to explore that a little bit prior to even entering this program with my counselor. And I had this preconceived notion that there was only one way of going to God. And I was just able to explore that a little bit with my counselor. And it was really enlightening to just be able to see that, that God connects with us at different ways. And this program has allowed me to see that as well, just in different ways. And it's been really great.
Oh, I'm glad, Rose. That's good. So you're coming into this with some exploration already.
Mm-hmm.
It'll be exciting to see how the assignments and getting to know your fellow classmates and how that reinforces all you've learned already. Good. I'm really glad to hear that. So I will, this might be a good place to say it here. And Isaiah, I heard how you connect with your clients at the Denver Rescue Mission, and you get to pray with them, and that's so exciting. And I'll just offer a little different perspective, is that sometimes our clients can hide behind prayer and hide behind Bible verses and not get to the heart of the matter. So, and that's a discretion piece. We have to go, so, hey, wait a second. That's a really cool verse, but it's not matching your despair right now. So help me here, and that's just, as you're curious and exploring, and Mary, you were nodding your head yes, and maybe seen that before. But we all can hide behind our faith too, especially when we're afraid. and we don't want to go to those deeper places. Mary, I know you have something to say.
Yeah, I've done it myself.
Don't we all?
Yeah, and so I can definitely see that, and I think that's perfect. Like, I think it has a lot to do with shame, like, especially depending on what the issue is. Like, we're not allowed to struggle with this issue as Christians, right? So you kind of cover it up. So I've kind of experienced that as well.
Yes, and it would happen a lot with because we counsel Christian leaders, pastors of huge churches, missionaries who've given their life to Christ in the mission field. And when things don't go well and the verses aren't doing what they used to do for them, it's really hard to confess that. And because we all go through, well, I'm speaking for myself, seasons of the dark night of the soul when we're praying and we don't feel heard. You know, that happens. We're human beings. And so, you know, when we need to allow that to be okay in our counseling room. And I just recently, I work with pastors often as well. I said a verse in the room, right? She's a pastor, right? She goes, "Don't give me that platitude." It's like, oh yeah, you're right. We need to stick with the pain, the deep pain here, not the reason for it, not the possible good that can come out of the suffering, which we all believe that, right? But
Yes.
even after 25 years, I said it at the wrong time. So, you know, we don't always say the right things at the right time because we're human too. And so, but we make a repair then with our client. I said, you are absolutely right. Let's go back to the despair, because I think you're telling me you need to roll around and discuss that more. Let's go back to the pain and the suffering. And you know, she needed to be, have a place where she could reflect that and be safe and not be judged and not be pushed too fast to the hope piece. And that's, you know, that's discernment when we're working with clients. And first thing is we sit with their suffering. That is the most important thing. After they're welcomed and accepted, we sit with their suffering first, and then we earn the right to look for hope. That's just kind of how it goes. It goes that way every session in a way, because, like, you know, they come in, they're up here, they tell you the issue, and then you have to bring them up here before they leave and go back to work or care for their children or, you know, whatever they're going to be doing. So that happens. It's like, it's just the pacing of the counseling hour. We don't want to leave them in a puddle as they go back out the door. So it's just a timing and a pacing thing.
One thing that I can agree with. Now, mind you, that my clients, most of my clients, not all of them, are in the addictions population. So they want, and they know I'm so like strong in my faith that they come to session because they're required 7 mandatory sessions, and they want to like sell. I've caught clients trying to sell me a great session. Like, they're so great. Like, things are so amazing. Like, they're just they're full in God. They're just, everything's going well. But then my supervisor's telling me that these clients have had write-ups the week and different outbursts. And so it's like all right, I'm missing something. And so I have to like call it out. But like you said, it's discernment within the session and like allowing the client to tell me something, like give me a verse, and then I'll ask him, now tell me how that applies to your life, or, you know, tell me how you use that now opposed to before you put yourself in a position to end up in the predicament you're in now. And like, so I never give like the clients, you know, the I guess immediacy of where they're at is their home, because, you know, they're going to be out of there in hopefully a year to 13 months, or they can get booted just for messing up. So it's like, I never wanted to be like, look, this is right, you're home now, opposed to God has brought you to a place where you can regroup, control your fast-paced life in a slow-paced environment. But I definitely agree with, you know, my clients have already tried to bamboozle me in sessions with God.
They'll do that. Yes, Isaiah. And I would say that part of it is a survival skill. You know, they're going to talk you out of going to the real stuff. It's how they've survived. And I would again say it's scary to talk about the real stuff, especially if you've never learned. And this is true in with those dealing with addictions. They've numbed themselves with the addiction, whatever it is, and they don't really know how to experience emotion and what that looks like in a regulated, managed way. And it's terrifying if they start going down to that deep place and they don't know how to. Such a foreign, scary place to share real emotion. So, you know, it's our job to help them do that in a managed way. And I do that with couples a lot because I have couples where one of the partners is addicted, and to actually help them in the session to feel the emotion and name it, because they don't know what they're feeling because they don't have a name for it. Help them identify it and then help them keep it at a moderate level so they can hear each other and not end up with a big explosion. So, you know, yeah, and people do that again, you know, like Mary was saying, we all do that. And sometimes we need to hide behind some scripture because it's the place we're at. It's not a safe place to go that deep, right? So, you know, but in the counseling room, we hope and pray that it's the safe place where they can go to those deeper places of vulnerability and expression and emotion that allows them to heal and have a new experience in our room. And then our job is not to get scared when they have that emotion. But, you know, sometimes I do, and I'll just say, you know, you need to give me a minute here. You just blew a lot in the room here. You just said and exposed a lot. I need to manage my emotions here for a minute, so just give me a minute. They may or may not know I'm praying inside, but generally I am praying and asking God for direction because this was overwhelming. And calling it overwhelming is appropriate because what they said was overwhelming. And that's good knowledge for them to know that. You know, I'm not ashamed to say you overwhelmed me because it's true. And that's that immediacy in the room, too, that we were talking about. So I think, you know, I would like you to review those acerbic, let's see, I had it pulled up on my phone for what they stand for. And remember, this is the world. This is the world of professional counseling out there. Oh, I can't find it. Well, when you go to the website, they'll tell you exactly what it stands for. Oh, Association for Spiritual, Ethical, and Religious Values. That's what it stands for. Association for Spiritual, Ethical, and Religious Values. So I do want you to be looking at that because it is important to know what the professional world says about it, because we have to integrate that with our faith and our practice, right? So it's important that we do know that. Well, it's 3 minutes till. Do you have any thoughts before we close? Anything that came up in what we've said so far that you'd like to share? Anything at all? Any questions?
I actually had a thought, Isaiah, when you were talking about how clients would come to you and kind of present that everything's okay and kind of like give you the silver lining. It made me think of kind of how, especially like speaking from my perspective, sometimes I relate to God that way. And maybe like we can kind of see that as maybe a glimpse into maybe that's how they react with God too, right? Especially depending on like background of like what religion they've come from or, you know, what their spiritual like history is. Have they learned that they can be vulnerable around God? Have they learned that they can bring him his darkness or bring you their darkness? Or do they have to clean themselves up first before they go to church or go to God? And so that's kind of an interesting thing that kind of came up in my mind. I was like, oh, that's really similar to each other in that situation.
Yes.
Yeah, I didn't know. I perfectly like that because it's like even within my own life, I had to. I guess what this program really done for me over the last 2 years is it knocked down my already religious walls that I had up, in the light of, like, I came in as a Christian, but I grew up in the Baptist faith, you know. So it's like certain sins now were sins that weren't forgivable, but other sins were forgivable, and just all type of things. So I had to take a step back, and, you know, out of all my professors, you know, Dr. Saxby, he's told me something that won't have not left my mind. He says, you know, in a broken world, bad things happen to good people, yet God sent us Christ. And it's like, and when that hit me, it's like, that's the sole explanation for pain in lights of people don't want to basically engage it, don't want to talk about it. They don't want to necessarily accept that it's their pain, that they're suffering, especially when they compare themselves to other people who are praising and just only joyful, only great. It's only like good. And it's like, they're never showing any bad. So I definitely like how you put that, because I would have to agree in a light of sometimes in session, I have to start basically early in the light of, I can't basically drop all my knowledge and my things, that my wisdom that God's pouring on me, because they're going to look at me like, dude, what did you just tell me? Like, so I definitely have to, like, make sure, meet them where they're at, basically. Yes, that's what Dr. Burkhart, one thing he says, you always want to meet clients where they're at. So definitely, I like that. Thank you.
Yeah. It's a scary thing sometimes to be vulnerable, and especially before God. That's pretty an awesome and terrifying experience, right? It can be. So.
I just want to touch on that. I work with a lot of clients that have experienced a lot of trauma, and kind of always aren't willing to deal with it. You know, they just don't want to go there. And I think what I think was Mary was saying about, you know, if you've been raised with, you know, a certain type of religion, sometimes you have that shame and you feel like, just what he said, I noticed that they feel like they don't want to share it because they think God is judging them, and they think I'm judging them. And really, it's all about just getting them to realize that God wants you to come to him with that pain, and he wants you to give it to him so he can help you release it. But you know, it's just a really long process for people that sometimes have been in the church or even out of the church for much of their lives. At least I find that in my experience with my clients.
And you know, churches are made up of people, and we're all broken, so nobody does it perfectly right. And people do get hit and blasted, you know, and, you know, shame does happen, which is different from guilt, you know. So being willing to hear them out, and being willing to explore that and ask questions and ask more about it, and giving them a place to confess, to express whatever it is that's going on inside them, and say, yeah, thanks for telling me, and it's really good to know that's what's going on for you. How can I help? You know, and sometimes they know and sometimes they don't, and then you say, well, how about we try this? Let's talk about more about this, and what happened that made your faith go dark, or for the shame. You know, we that's what our job is explore, be curious, and see what happens. I have I get kind of confused with my words, but I really do think that awareness, that when we become more aware of what's going on in our thoughts and feelings, and that gives us freedom to choose something different. So awareness creates freedom, which creates choice. And so I like that, because a lot of times we get stuck thinking and feeling we have no choice. And that's a depressive thinking. And again, lots of times that's when the people make the phone call to come see you, when they get so stuck that they feel there's no choice. So, well, God bless you all on this beginning of your next 7-week block. And it's been a delight to meet you all. Any other questions about the course that I can answer? And don't forget, you can always email me I've tried to put it in about 3 different places, in student lounge, announcements, I guess the place where it says who I am and how to contact me. So please don't ever hesitate. Don't ever close your computer with a question unanswered from your instructor. And the other thing is, always just call me Patty. I'm just Patty. So Dr. Kappa is in the other part of the house, and I'm Patty. All right. Thank you so much for being here, and thanks for letting me record it. And so great to see you. So I'll be here next Wednesday at this time if you want to join me again, and we'll talk about the next week's assignments. All right.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Bye, Patty.
Bye.
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 Bye-bye.